Lately, I've been reading some articles that have had headlines where people have paid off huge amounts of debt, but it's left them really burned out at the end. And it does not have to be that way. Hi, I'm Justin.
And I'm Tasha with One Big Happy Life, and we help you find balance, build wealth, and live happy. Everything that you need to create the life that you want. So before we get into today's video, the first thing I'm going to say is that I sound like a frog right now because I just came back from a 3-day business conference hosted by Amy Porterfield, who is my online business mentor. And there was a lot of talking involved, and no matter how much I cough dropped it up, this is what I sound like. So that's why my voice is different.
Did not even notice and was like,
No.
She sounds great,
No,
as always.
I feel like I sound like a dude right now. But the other thing I wanted to tell you is that so many of you have been like, oh my gosh, I wish this was a podcast. I wish you guys had a podcast. Why don't you guys have a podcast? And so we are going to be making not just one, but 2 podcasts. The One Big Happy Life.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
He knows. He's just playing. The One Big Happy Life podcast. And then also I'm going to be starting my own podcast that is about starting and scaling a business to 7 figures and beyond. So if you are a podcast listener and would love to listen to our podcast, head on over to onebighappylife.com/podcast and sign up, and we'll let you know when the podcasts launch. So we're hoping to launch one in November and one in December.
That is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so for today's video, I have been concerned with what I've been seeing with these headlines where people are paying off big amounts of debt. So they've got a lot of debt and they want to conquer. But at the end, they're doing like these really rapid debt payoffs, and it's leaving them mentally burned out because it's taking them a long time and they're giving up so much to get it done. And so it's just draining them. And it totally does not have to be that way. Regardless of how much debt you have, there are ways to conquer debt without sacrificing your mental well-being, for sure.
Yeah. So if you've been following us on our own financial journey, which we share in our financial updates every single month, then you may know that over the past 2.5 years, we have paid down over $150,000 worth of debt. And if you go back even before our channel existed, we've paid off well over $200,000 worth of debt. And we've done it in a way that's been very balanced, very methodical. You've seen us go on vacations, international vacations, and, enjoy our lives. Like next week is going to be our annual Halloween vlog on October 31st. So tune in for that.
Yeah. And as we've done it, we've taken different strategies along the way. Sometimes we do pay off debt a little bit faster, and sometimes we slow pay our debts, just depending on which debt it is, the terms of the debt, and kind of what we have going on in our lives, because the ultimate goal is that we wanted it to be this sustainable progress, because we're both attorneys, had law school debt. We had over $1 million in debt just a few years ago. So we're talking, we have massive debt load, and we knew it was going to take a while to get done.
And yes, we do also have a significant income. Oh, the other thing I want to say is that having debt didn't stop me from leaving my job and going all in on our business. And that's another thing that I saw like on Instagram, which is awesome. Don't get us wrong. We are so proud and so excited for all of those people who have rapidly paid off their debt so that they can now go on to do this thing. But we're happy to be an example of what is possible for those of you who don't want to have to do that, right? So we are still paying off our debts and following our dreams. So I left my job. I'm working 100% in One Big Happy Life, and I get paid 100% by our business, and you will still continue to see our debt go down.
Yeah, so it's important to remember, and I think the fundamental thing about this is that your thoughts and feelings about the debt and about the payoff, it's going to affect everything about it, how you experience it. And so if you look at debt in a way that is like, oh my gosh, I hate this thing, it's killing me, well, that, it's just going to get worse and worse. You're going to keep feeling that until it's ultimately gone. But that's a choice to view it a certain way. And you can choose to look at things more transactionally and less emotionally and think about it differently.
Yeah, and there are two great podcasts that I want to link to you down below. One is Brooke Castillo with the Life Coach School, and the other is Dr. Shannon Irvine, and she's a neuroscientist, like you know, I don't know the correct words there, but
That's probably right.
yeah, so she is very much in the science-backed way of doing this, and but they both have the exact same message. Brooke Castillo is a life coach, and Dr. Shannon Irvine is a PhD in like neuroscience. And really, we all underestimate just how much our thoughts determine what actually happens in our lives. And I especially like the way Dr. Irving puts it, because she talks about how our conscious brain, our conscious brain is in control, right? The people who are sitting here talking, making these thoughts, we are in control. But what happens is the rest of our brain, our subconscious, it burns a lot of calories to think. So our brains are trying to be as efficient as possible. So when we repeatedly think a thought, our subconscious, if we think it enough, our subconscious will take that repeated conscious thought and just build it into our subconscious so it automatically fires without us realizing it. And so what happens is, if you listen to and read a whole bunch of stories about how debt is awful, about how you're in a crappy place if you are still in debt, you're dumb if you're in debt, and you listen to those things over and over, and you hear that voice in your head over and over, your subconscious is like, oh, that must be true. That must be what she means. So I'm just going to automate this for her so she never has to think about this again. And so then that causes the stress that you feel about debt. So the first step to eliminating that debt stress is to change how you think about debt.
And one of the things that you can start thinking about differently is the concept that money is abundant. So you can go out and get more money, make more money. There is no actual limit to how much money you can make. There are lots of different ways to go out and get money. There's side hustles, there's getting a promotion at work, changing jobs, going back to school, getting a different career path. There are just tons of different ways to get money. And there are
Yeah.
people that are getting those promotions. There are people that are changing their career paths into something that they both want to do and makes them enough money for them to accomplish whatever goals they have. And so why can't that be you?
Absolutely. So then the next thing to understand about debt is that there is no morality tied to debt. Debt is just a circumstance. It's just something that is, right? And the problem that most people see when they look at debt is, well, so number one, they're like, well, I want to do other things with that money now. But the bigger one is number two, I don't want to pay interest. But like Joseph said, money is abundant. Time is not. Time is the one thing that is finite. We all have X amount of time, and we're not going to get any more time. We don't know how much time we have. We always assume that we have more than we probably really do. But all debt is, and all paying interest is using money, which is infinite, to buy back time, which is finite. Right? So student loan debt, for example, and we talk about this all the time in Wealth Builders Academy. If anyone starts to have some blocks or some negative mindset around college, it's like, well, you got 4 dedicated years of your life to spend studying this one thing, and to have that freedom and flexibility to not have to think about much of anything that happens in real life, and just to be able to have those experiences at a time in your life when you didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So that's an amazing thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, there are many people that wish that they could have that same experience right now,
Yeah.
even if they had some, less money, because you can really transform your life during that.
Yeah. And so the important thing to remember is that you can choose to spend money on interest to buy back time. And what that means is that it is okay to slow pay your debt if that means that that money is best spent there so that you can create a balanced life that you enjoy. Because remember, your time is finite. And provided that you have a debt payoff plan and a plan for building wealth so that you can retire when you want to at the lifestyle that you want to.
Okay, so we want you to really work on getting this change in mindset if you are falling into the category where debt is stressing you out. And so, to help you get there, the first thing to do is to take a look at your debt and get to know all the interest rates, all your payment due dates, how much you have, how long it's going to take to pay it off with the required payments. So, get a really good understanding of everything that you have, because then you can, it kind of starts to diffuse the situation. You know when things are due, what terms they are. There are no more questions, because thinking about a vague thing, oh my gosh, my debt,
Hmm.
that is that's a recipe for disaster, because you're thinking about the wrong thing. You're thinking about the big numbers, not the little chips that you have that you actually are working with day to day.
So then, once you understand your debt, then you know exactly where you are. And like Joseph says, it begins to sort of diffuse that anxiety, because you might look at it and you might say, well, wow, this is still quite a bit of debt, but it's a lot less scary. It's sort of like when you're in the dark. Right. And it's pitch black and it's like you have no idea what's there. And so your brain just starts imagining all these horrible things. But when you see it, like you go in the Halloween store and there's a scary thing, it's like, okay, well, I can see it though. If I can see it, I can do something about it. So the next step is to create a sustainable payoff plan that you can stick with long term that allows you to also meet your other financial goals.
Now, it could start off where you are paying something more rapidly or
Yeah.
less rapidly. And so we're not saying that you have to pick one payment speed
Mhm.
and that's what you stick with the whole time. It can vary, but the idea is that you want an overall plan that you can stick with, because the worst case scenario is really you trying to go into hyperdrive to pay off your debt, and then you leave yourself with no liquidity, no liquid assets, no emergency fund, or not a big enough emergency fund. And then an actual emergency happens, and then you have to repeat the process going back into debt, or maybe not even be able to get more debt
Yeah.
at the time you need it. And so,
Or the other thing that happens for a lot of people is they go uber frugal because they're like, oh, I'm gonna go, what is it, gazelle intense, and like pay all this stuff off and like scorched earth it. And then what happens? You feel so deprived that you turn around and binge spend. Seriously, managing your money is a lot like when it comes to food, right? And overeating and losing weight and becoming healthy. It's like crash diets, they're not healthy. They're not sustainable long term, right? It's far better to take tiny incremental and make tiny incremental sustainable changes over the long run so that you can enjoy the journey as well. So no more like uber frugal and then binge spending and purging. We're not going to do that anymore.
yeah, and an excellent way to keep this sustainable plan going after you have it, in concept down on paper or Excel spreadsheet or whatever, is to automate as many parts of it as you can, so you're not having to actively reconsider the plan or actively make decisions regarding the debt payoff. So decide, hey, I'm going to pay an extra, I don't know, $50, $10, whatever it is, over my minimum payment on this card, and I know that it's going to be gone in 2 years, whatever the case may be. And then set up in your bank account or at your credit card's website that it's going to automatically draft the correct amount on the correct day, and
Mhm.
set it, forget about it. Well, okay, don't completely forget about it,
Yeah,
but
check
make
it
sure that
like
it's
once a
actually
month.
paying properly.
Yeah.
But you don't have to affirmatively go in and make that payment every month, because that's difficult. And so one of the reasons that people might be getting burned out is the fact that if they don't have the plan, it's not automated, and they're putting every penny that they can against it. Well, they have to think about, well, how many pennies do I have? And then affirmatively paying it. And so then you're doing a lot of mental work and effort to pay off that debt, when really you could have set this automatic payment even for less, and then you're not weighing down your mind as much. And I think that's worth some time.
The other thing that we recommend is picking times in your year, because presumably you have a 1-year spending plan. And if you don't, head on over to onebighappylife.com/budget. And so when you plan out your year, you look at see what's going on in your year. When are you going on vacation? When are the big holidays? When are you going to be spendy? And look for periods in the year where you can do a debt payoff jumpstart. So we like to do it in like January, February, because it's typically like Reeves' birthday and he's still young. So we're not spending that. We don't spend that much on birthdays. So that's a perfect time to do a quick little, well, for these 2 months, let's focus on knocking down X amount of debt, right? Because anything is sustainable for this very short period of time. And it kind of becomes a game. It's kind of fun to say, okay, well, this month, let's see what we can do, right? And so then you get those jump starts between those easy, sustainable times. It's sort of like when someone decides they're going to train for a marathon when they normally do like 5Ks. So they do the marathon and they're like, that was great, but I'm not going to do that again for a while.
Well, that's so funny that you say that. I've started triathlon training, and it is a cycle. It's like you have your season where you get really intense, but then you have to back off. And so, like, I mean, that's still making progress. You still do something, but it's like you really take it easy. And so, the same can be true with your finances. You can have these times where it's like, oh, well, I have some extra money, or that you're going to have some extra free time. Maybe you're going to do some side hustling over the summer or something like that to do a little bit of extra income. And you're going to go ahead and put that money extra against that debt or accomplish some other financial goal, savings goal, and then concentrate on other things like that's totally cool. The thing is to really just start thinking about it differently. And that's really going to be the key. The underlying change that for your finances for the better is just thinking about it differently.
And I have to also recommend being a part of a community of people that feel the same way. So if you're not currently a member of Wealth Builders Academy, you should definitely join the waitlist by going to onebighappylife.com/insider to join us there when the doors open again in January.
Okay, we hope that this information is helping all of you that have debt or will be paying off some debt in the future. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.